So, in continuing in discussion about dominant approaches, and when I think about teacher-directed large group instruction, I think about a lot of things, and I think about how that goes into the way you communicate information, not only the modality through which you do it, but that information and how much privilege you have for it, and how much privilege you have for the information you're expecting back, and the expectations you have of your students. And I know a perfect example of one that I never met was in AP language class in 11th grade. And we read a lot of books, a lot of classics. And, these classics are heavy with themes and literary elements. And my teacher thought it best to assess our knowledge of these themes and elements through true or false questions and multiple choice. And I was always so frustrated with her, and I would obviously verbalize this because I can't hold it in, and say, there's no way I can write this like this. There's no way I can say, the theme of The Catcher in the Rye is blank, true or false. There's no way that that is sufficient enough. And she didn't want to hear it. She thought I was being defiant and rebellious and just trying to get a rise out of her. And so I did that, and on multiple choice tests, I would write in fifth and sixth responses. A, B, C, D, E, and my little F, and a long response. And she would write a comment like, I'm glad you put an F here, because that's your grade. And it's terribly, and for an entire year, I just thought I was wrong. Because on every paper, wrong, 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 wrong. What are you trying to do? Who do you think you are? Comments on my papers from an adult, allowing a child, not a child, but allowing her student, allowing someone that you have a responsibility to get this rise out of you, when really all she had to kind of do was reframe the problems I was having. And I think it's really a good time to talk about Lost at School by Ross Greene, published in 2008, when he says on page 10, kids do well if they can. This philosophy may not sound earth-shattering, he says, but when we consider the very popular alternative philosophy, kids do well if they want to, significance becomes clear. These two disparate philosophies have dramatically different ramifications for our assumptions about kids and how to proceed when they do not meet our expectations. And it makes me think about me and how I never met expectations of this teacher and of a lot of teachers, actually. Not because I didn't want to, but because I physically couldn't. I physically couldn't fit myself into the boxes that they had, designed for us. And it was really difficult. It was really difficult to feel as if I couldn't do those things and that no one understood. And, I'm coming from a place where I have even a greater command over what the dominant narrative says of standardized education. And so it really makes me think and project those experiences onto students that find comfort in completely diverse ways of learning and of knowing and of being. And it makes me scared for them that they're going into education like this and that they've been in that kind of education. And I'm guilty of it too. I went to Nepal and immediately I set up a star chart. I set up a reward system, and I thought if they really wanted these stars, if they really wanted these prizes, they would get them. And I had to really reframe that fast, because I noticed really great kids that just couldn't get those stars, and I saw a lot of myself in them. I saw a lot of the fact that it wasn't that they didn't want to do well. It was that the ways in which I was setting up for them to do well weren't ones in that they could. We make a lot of these analogies about square peg and a circular hole or circle hole, whatever it is. And we don't think about how that translates to the ways in which we're setting up human beings to fail and to be wrong, wrong, wrong. And how we're not allowing them to write in their extra response. And so that's what I think of when I think of the dominant approaches to teacher-directed instruction, is that there's their square peg, and they can't think of any other shape that can possibly fit into there. And that if you're not that shape, you just don't want to be.